This pandemic is weighing heavily on the American people. Roughly 1.4 million Americans have been infected. More than 80,000 have died. Unemployment has not been this high since World War II. Just a few months ago, millions of hardworking men and women were thriving and optimistic. They were making big plans across kitchen tables. Now all of that is in chaos. The chairman of the Federal Reserve reports that nearly 4 in 10 American households that earn less than $40,000 a year had somebody get laid off in the month of March alone. This emergency is very serious, so the Senate's response has been serious. In March, Senate Republicans designed and the full Senate passed the CARES Act. It pushed trillions of dollars to working families, job creators, and medical professionals. We sent direct cash to almost 130 million Americans. We delivered hundreds of billions of dollars in paycheck protection loans to small businesses, saving tens of millions of American jobs. We helped state and local government defray coronavirus costs. We funded healthcare providers and testing. Even now, its programs are still taking effect, still coming online, still helping. The Senate took a blank sheet of paper and turned it into the largest rescue package in history. We've taken this crisis seriously. But House Democrats have taken a totally different approach. While we finalized the CARES Act, the House parachuted in with miscellaneous liberal demands and completely unrelated to COVID-19. Solar energy tax credits, airline emissions. One senior House Democrat called the virus a tremendous opportunity to restructure things to fit our vision. One Senate Democratic colleague asked, how many times are we going to get a shot at a $1 trillion+ program? They told us exactly what they were up to. So we ignored the left-wing wish list and we stayed serious, and the CARES Act is still helping Americans bridge these temporary shutdowns. So let's fast forward to today. Democratic House is still not back in Washington. Their constitutional duty stations are still unmanned. But Democrats cannot stop salivating over the possibilities for partisan gain. Former Vice President Biden says he sees this tragedy as, quote, an incredible opportunity to fundamentally transform the country. Biden said, an incredible opportunity to fundamentally transform the country. Speaker Pelosi said, I see everything as an opportunity. A co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus has said, quote, for me, the leverage is that there is enormous suffering. The leverage is that there is enormous suffering. 80,000 Americans have died. More than 20 million have lost their jobs. I call that a crisis. They call it leverage. This week, the Speaker published an 1,800-page seasonal catalog of left-wing oddities and called it a coronavirus relief bill. So here we go again. Here we go again. It includes a massive tax code giveaway to high earners in blue states. Working families are struggling to put food on the table, but House Democrats are prioritizing millionaires on the coast. It would print another round of checks specifically for, listen to this, illegal immigrants. Another round of checks for illegal immigrants. Can you believe it, Madam President? We forgot to have the Treasury Department send money to people here illegally. My goodness, what an oversight. Thank goodness Democrats are on the case. The Speaker's bill also tries to use the virus as cover to implement sweeping changes to election laws that Democrats have literally wanted for years, like forcing every single state to embrace California's sketchy ballot harvesting, whether they want to or not. And then, Madam President, the cherry on top. the bold new policy from Washington Democrats that will kick the coronavirus to the curb and save American families from this crisis. Here it is. Here it is. New annual studies on diversity and inclusion within the cannabis industry. Not one study, but two of them. Let me say that again. The Democrats' supposed coronavirus bill includes taxpayer-funded studies to measure diversity and inclusion among the people who profit off of marijuana. The word cannabis appears in the bill 68 times, more times than the word job, and 4 times as many as the word hire. Maybe that's just as well, because when their proposal does try to treat the economic crisis, it proposes stifling anti-work policies that would only make it harder for Americans to get their jobs back. For example, they literally propose to raise taxes on small businesses, drain more cash from Main Street during a Main Street meltdown. So maybe it's best if House Democrats focus on cannabis studies and leave economics to the rest of us. This is a totally unserious effort. Even the mainstream media says, quote, "Neither this bill nor anything resembling it will ever become law. It's a Democratic wish list." A Democratic wish list. So forget about making law. This thing even fails as a messaging bill. That's what's so remarkable. House Democrats had a blank slate to write anything they wanted to define the modern Democratic Party, any vision for the society they wanted. And here's what they chose: tax hikes on small businesses, giveaways to blue state millionaires, government checks for illegal immigrants, and sending diversity detectives to inspect the pot industry. The House gave themselves no assignments for 2 months except developing this proposal. Yet it still reads like the Speaker of the House pasted together some random ideas from most liberal members and slapped the word coronavirus on top of it. An unserious product from an unserious House majority that has spent months dealing itself out of the crisis. House Democrats have been missing in action for months. While the Senate was passing the CARES Act, the Democratic House was on the sidelines. Substantively and literally, they had already gone home. Nearly 2 months later, senators are back at our duty stations with new precautions. We've been back 2 weeks. We're holding major hearings on the pandemic, legislating and confirming nominees. The House, they're still at home. And when they do contribute, it's not serious. House Democrats have checked out of this crisis and left governing up to the Senate. They even intend to shatter congressional history and jam through remote voting, so they can continue to be counterproductive from the comfort of their homes. Let me say that again. They even intend to shatter congressional history and jam through remote voting so they can continue to be counterproductive from the comfort of their own homes. Look, here in the real world, Senate Republicans are working seriously to help the country reopen. The crushing unemployment figures, even with the CARES Act, show us that no amount of federal spending could substitute for the entirety of the U.S. economy. We need to be smart and we need to be safe, but we have to find a more sustainable middle ground. This week, Chairman Alexander and the Health Committee heard from Dr. Fauci, Dr. Redfield, and other top experts on exactly this subject. There are at least 2 big things our nation will need to start recovering: stepped up testing nationwide and legal liability protection so that K through 12 schools, universities, charities, and employers are not invaded by trial lawyers the instant they unlock their doors. On testing, fortunately, the Senate has already done a great deal. The executive branch, and especially the states, are in the driver's seat, but we have already sent billions of dollars to help scale up testing nationwide. On legal liability reform, the work lies ahead of us. As my Republican colleagues and I have made clear, strong legal protections will be a hard red line in any future legislation. So, Madam President, that's what's happening here in the Senate. Serious leadership on a serious crisis, like we've been doing for months. This half of the Capitol is doing our job.